Hello, I'm Roy Richardson, and this is the Dynamic Business Leaders Podcast. Welcome to this week's edition of the Dynamic Business Leaders Podcast, and I'm your host, Roy Richardson. The Dynamic Business Leaders Podcast is brought to you by Aurora Infotech, cybersecurity firm based in Orlando, Florida, specializing on the information security needs of small to medium-sized businesses. And folks, I'm excited today because my guest today is a sought-after international speaker and 23-year technology veteran who specializes in merging social media, digital marketing, technology training, and entrepreneurship skills together to help organizations increase influence, impact, and income in the communities they serve. In 2001, she founded one of Central Florida's select social media technology training firms, where today she works with business owners, executive teams, and emerging leaders on a wide variety of digital and omni-channel marketing topics, including social media content, integrated marketing, digital marketing tools, tactics, and strategy. She's a social media coach and a social media speaker who has served as an embedded chief marketing officer and chief experience officer to many organizations, leadership teams, and growth stage companies and businesses the world over. And if that was not enough, she is also a bit of an adventurous. She's a traveler who has met the Pope. She's snowmobiled and hiked a glacier, swam between the continental divide, and hiked through a rainforest around a volcano. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Dawn Raquel Jensen to the show of, virtual coaching. Did I just mess that up after that whole thing? Yes, I did.
You can actually just stop it after, welcome Dawn Raquel Jensen, and then I think you're going to be good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right, cool. I'll edit that. So let me just do this here. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dawn Raquel Jensen. Dawn, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Roy. How are you?
I'm doing great. How have you been?
It has been a busy and productive week. So it's been amazing.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to sharing your journey with our audience. And so one of the first things that came to mind when I was reading your bio, and I want to delve first into the adventure side of things. Tell me a little bit about, meeting the Pope and some of this stuff that you were on. Give us a skinny on that.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of things happen by kismet or happenstance. I had an opportunity when I was in college to go study Polish culture in Rome for the summer. And that's part of my heritage. You wouldn't know it to look at me, but it is. And part of that is spending 3 weeks just immersing in at the time. So let me give you a little bit of context, and this will also tell my age. So don't count it too much. But at the time, the Pope was Pope John Paul II, and he had a Polish home. It's kind of a people's home. So anyone of Polish descent could apply and stay in the home. So as part of the 3 weeks of learning about Polish culture and trip, we were surprised with a private audience with the Pope. And surprisingly enough, very funny. He's very funny. He was a playwright when he was younger, and very creative. And it was an amazing experience to meet him.
Wow. That's certainly a once in a lifetime type experience. And I'm glad that you shared that with us. So tell me a little bit, how did you venture into, social media and what it is that you're doing today? And how did you go about starting your business?
Well, I think I come by entrepreneurship. Honestly, I'm a third generation entrepreneur. My grandmother, who was a former World War II flight nurse, came to Central Florida and married and opened up her own business. She was real estate agent, and had her own agency. I guess you call it agency at the time.
Yeah.
And so the entrepreneur bug, or just being kind of self-sufficient, bootstrapping it a little bit, and help me identify and relate to entrepreneurs in the different stages of, startup to growth to, kind of being the catalyst for their success. My start got almost right out of college. I was a established Navy journalist, published nationally and internationally. And in the journalism side, when my first, I want to say my first real job was working with a software training small business to go into mom and pop businesses and train them on, at the time it was Microsoft Office programs.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, fast forward, maybe about 5 or 6 years, we have the age of Yahoo and Netscape and internet service providers, and being able to be the catalyst or the person to help explain how all this fits together, how they can run their business more efficiently and effectively utilizing technology to do the heavy lifting. And that comes into more corporate and classroom training. I was blessed to work with a nonprofit who had librarians as trainers. And librarians, if your audience doesn't know, librarians are super uber resourceful, and they're one of the first people to use technology. And at the time it was new media and then social media. So when we were training librarians and academics in all the municipalities and the universities across in the region and the area and the state, we were introducing things like Facebook and YouTube and things like that. So I was able to look at it as a whole to say, okay, where are the spots that businesses, particularly small businesses, can get on the same playing field that larger competitors and enterprise companies can do? And I found that social media was that equal playing ground.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yes, a lot of people probably will not know this, but the libraries were actually one of the first academic institutions, and by extension libraries were the first institutions to actually, were on the World Wide Web back then. And for the most part, that's where people went to go to to get on the World Wide Web, via Mozilla and all these other, names that probably the generations out there today are probably scratching their heads saying, what are you guys talking about? But
exactly. What's that?
Right. So, that's okay. Okay. So I got you now. So, and in this process of engaging with these small businesses and teaching them the ins and outs and how they can position themselves to be like the bigger guys out there, what have you learned on your journey and what's exciting right now?
Oh gosh. Okay. So as far as trend wise, the exciting thing, which I have been harping on since when everybody, kind of blowing smoke into the wind almost in 2009 and 2010, was AR, augmented reality. We see this with when Yelp had Monocle, and then further along was Google Glasses. And, if you look at A Day in Glass, I think it is, from DuPont, you can see the earlier versions of what AR, digital overlay over real experience. And so now finally, I believe we're at a point where businesses and business owners and operators do understand that how they can use it and then apply it to make the customer experience for their clients and customers more robust, and I want to say juicy, but just robust and well thought out. So that's one. The other thing that I'm excited about, and this has been around a while, but applying to a, growth in small business, it's the adoption rate is a little bit less than if you have a marketing team and a bigger organization. And that's I was going to say verbal, but that's voice search. So voice search, I think, because you're able to share the information out about your company, your products and services, you can educate and inform about that to your clients and prospects and make them your brand ambassadors, utilizing the tools and the technology, whether it's Alexa or on your phone, if it's Siri, utilizing those tools are going to make your job a lot easier. So, we see this multiple channels. It's not just social media anymore. There's multiple channels to reach your client, and being able to serve them at the level that they expect, meet them where they are, and how they engage and want to engage in your product or service is going to be important.
So if I go back here a little bit on what you just said with the augmented reality, for someone who may not necessarily, have been exposed to that, and maybe,
Mhm.
in our audience who, maybe they're hearing you, but not being able to wrap the concept around it. Can you
Right.
break it down a little more in terms of when you
Sure.
said that, it can make it a bit more juicy, how that plays out for them?
Right. So let me go back and talk about, if you've anybody who's done a Google search on Google Maps will understand that turn by turn instruction. When they go
Yeah.
to their browser and they put in an address and they see it in a hybrid model, they can see the roads and the, local restaurants listed, overlaid over where they're supposed to be, where they are. So what we're looking at and what I recommend that you think about is, in what way can your product and service do the same thing? So if there's an informational educational video that is connected to your logo or to a spot on your website, or if you have an app, some business owners do, is there a way that they can get more information or enhance the experience? Or even if they were to, in the case of security, if they were able to hover over an area of Wi-Fi, I'm riffing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are they able to look at, or could they be designated kind of areas of points on a place or placement in real time where you can provide access or other information that would be, warning or just notices and things like that? Does that help at all? Does that help
Yeah. Yeah.
expand
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yes. 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 Yes.
So
Definitely.
whether it is your marketing collateral, brochure, business card that has an element or a point that we can overlay and connect, whether it's animation or connect video or connect voice, we want to be able to make sure that the experience for the employee, or internally and externally, the experience for the client or the customer is full, complete, just the way it is. And it helps with the
Gotcha.
sales cycle, and it helps with the onboarding as well. There's different areas that this can influence and reflect.
Gotcha, gotcha. It's amazing. I mean, because when we think of marketing, and if we turn back the clock of time and we think of marketing, traditionally many years ago and many moons, it was just print marketing, right? And all of a sudden then came digital marketing. And then within digital marketing, there are all these different realms. And now, there was social marketing, and even within social, where, we have all the different platforms. Now we start talking about augmented reality. We start talking about artificial intelligence. We start, bringing all these different pieces together. And now you're talking about voice and tying that in. I mean, it seems like, in order for most businesses out there to really have that marketing edge, they need to have someone like yourself who understands all these different elements and can break it down into layman's terms for them, but to be able to put it together and really bring it to them. And that's what your company does, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, it used to be that someone's nephew's neighbor's son can put my website up and put me on Facebook. And that
Sounds like cybersecurity.
and that's, that can be a response, probably not the most secure or adaptive for what the business needs. But at the same time, businesses, if you want to go far, you can go it alone. But if you want if you want to go fast, you go it alone. You want to go far, you build your team. So in the aspects of, starting small, building deliberately, and being consistent, it can get overwhelming for any business owner. So if you look at, your FAQs or the common questions that you're asked, whether it's through Facebook Messenger or on the phone or via email, you start with those things as those foundational answers that come up repeatedly, that you can repurpose across those different channels.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. And of course, it's important to have the same messaging across all those different channels, right? Because a lot of times we see where there's a lot of disconnect, which kind of leads me into my next question here is, where would you say that, business owners go off course in their marketing?
I this is very common. So one is they want to be all things to all people. They want to be on all platforms all the time, 24/7, instead of having a contained, direct, specific approach for a specific goal and outcome. So sometimes, when you start small, it's really having and mastering being where your clients are, right? And being able to create those pivotal pieces of content that move the needle. So, for you, we're right here with podcast. It's transcribed into articles or voice. It can be the video embed, and it's whether it's Medium or YouTube or other aspects on the website and through the newsletter. You've got amplification and syndication of content. For business owners, there's an overwhelm, and I think for most people, there's not necessarily a method. They have a Jackson Pollock presentation. We'll just throw it up and see what sticks and hope and pray, versus getting the messaging flat, getting the branding flat, working with somebody who focuses on that, or taking what they have and making sure that the consistency of the message all the way across how they're shown from their website to their email signature to social. And knowing that wherever they are right now is okay. If I spoke with clients 5 years ago, one of the things about business owners, and this is the bootstrapping mentality, is they feel like they have to be masters in everything. You do have to have the knowledge so you're not taken advantage of, for sure. But they make themselves bad or wrong for being where they're at. Well, I don't know about you, but when I graduated college, there was no social media.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you, we had just moved into Windows 95.
CompuServe and AOL.
but and I had a ad PR professor say, well, if you did master Microsoft Office, you might as well not apply for a job. And I'm thinking, well, nobody offered this. Are you kidding me right now? So when business owners are looking at social media and going, okay, I understand how I can, talk about kittens and oatmeal and family stuff on Facebook, but when we translate it to real world, solving real world problems they have for the clients and how to get the information out there, there is a public persona, there's a private persona, and there's a personal persona. And even in those lines of demarcation, we really need to kind of strengthen and shore up a little bit, especially in this day and age, in this environment. We don't pretend that things have strong walls anymore. We are, there's a transparency. My line between professional and personal is rather, the bar is rather low. And for me, and when I say the bar is rather low, it's easy for me to step over and be one and the other. You're not going to find a different Dawn on my personal Facebook than you are my professional. You'll find what I'm passionate about, the environment and nature and things like that, and archaeology, which is nothing like social media, but at least you have a sense of who I am, generally speaking. And I think business owners are the same way. They have to reflect from the same point.
And that's interesting that you say that, because a lot of businesses that we engage with, at the end of the day, when it comes down to marketing, and look, my undergrad degrees in advertising, right, and with a minor in marketing, but it's about establishing that relationship on a personal level with people. People buy from people. Unfortunately, what I see is a lot of businesses still have not grasped that, and they go at it purely from a commercial standpoint and not really. And I'm speaking more from the social media perspective. You know, it's more Uber business, but not really bringing the personal flair into it that helps build that persona and helps to draw in people that, you know, that can, how do you say, relate or are drawn to that persona.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you say that. Nothing repels me more than somebody reaching out on LinkedIn, wanting to connect with a genuine, you know, personal connection, and then literally the next, you know, next note, and sometimes I don't even waste the time. Yeah, you know, this new course, this new thing. What do you think? And while that first out of the box would have probably worked 7-8 years ago, we have come too far in the technology and the expectation now that we are all digital natives.
Yeah.
That doesn't work anymore. There's a new playbook this new year for a lot of different reasons. You know, the fact that we are working from home more, there is a professionalness that comes in the comfort level that comes, but there's the veil's down.
Yeah.
Half my meetings with my team, I may or may not have makeup on. And that never would have happened. I'm telling you, it never would have happened. And you get to a point where it's like, you know what? It's human to human contact.
Yeah.
They're going
Well,
to
even in that aspect, you know, and yes, and if I make light of that, you know, we all know when the pandemic came about and everybody went into their, you know, working from home. For people like yourself and myself, we're accustomed of this Zoom environment. So, you know, we know that we can have a meeting where, you know, you may only see my picture on the other side and not necessarily see me, and other days you may see me. But in some cases, I mean, there were some blunders out there where people were just, you know, walking around in their undies and to the restroom and wherever else, just totally forgetting that, you know, hey, they're in a complete different new realm now.
Yeah, it's interesting that that we have to come at it from a live mic scenario at all times. You know, much like people that are used to being in front of the media, much more doing press junkets and things. So, absolutely, yeah. So feel for him, but
I hear you.
Feel better.
I hear you. So listen, in this new environment that we're in right now, and you know, we don't know what the next 6 months, 9 months, whatever is going to bring. For the most part, everybody's kind of leaning, from most business people that I've spoken to, and saying, hey, you know what? It's pretty much going to be continued, for the most part, work from home remotely. A lot of businesses have actually embraced it and said, hey, you know what, this actually works better for us because we're getting more productivity out of our team. We're seeing, you know, where people are stepping up to the plate. And of course, it's a bottom line issue, right? A lot of them are looking to reduce that overhead footprint that they had before, where they don't have to carry anymore. But in this age now, where, you know, there's no, you know, this office that was what I would call the walled garden is now spread over many different miles and miles, in some cases continents. You know, how important is social media, and particularly with marketing efforts? You know, what are your recommendations for businesses with regards to their social media this year in this particular, you know, situation we're in?
So I'm gonna address it on two different ways. I'm gonna address it for businesses externally to clients, and I want to first address it businesses internally to team. And I think because we are so spread out and we are working virtually, remotely, in different parts of the state, different parts of the world, utilizing, you know, again, the technology to do the heavy lifting, whether it's through Messenger or Slack, or using some third-party middleware to like Zapier, to provide some of the manual things that would you be able to walk over, or, you know, would be easier when you're actually face to face. The other thing for employee and employee experience, because when your employee experience is high, your sales are high. So the better the employee experience, the stronger the team, the stronger the customer experience, and the stronger the sales are going to be, and long term. So when you have those kind of disconnects, we have meetings twice a week. just to kind of update, and then we have, and those are kind of work session, regular meetings, and then we have work sessions, which are longer, so that we're able to at least be together in a way that there's some camaraderie. When we're looking at what businesses can do right now and next year, is if they haven't done an audit on themselves, in the digital realm, social media audit, that would be one of the first things to do, is to claim the businesses, or excuse me, claim the accounts that you need on the social platforms. Make sure all the information is consistent. These are the ways. They can't go into a brick and mortar place anymore. These are the ways that they're going to get to you. Make sure that the information, the emails and the phone numbers are updated, because things may change. Be visible is the other. So many times when we're letting social media go by the wayside, we kind of feel like it's a wrong cooked chicken. We can set it and forget it.
Yeah.
The way I tell my age. The ability to, make sure that you have your Google My Business page, if it's Yelp or Manta or Merchant Circle, depending, or if it's your chamber, and make sure that those aspects of the things that you are a part of, industries, associations, that you have those, your profiles filled out as well. And then let social media, the way that you create content, be the way that you do business. So sometimes you'll get a kind of a thought in your head, or what you want to say while you're driving. You might be thinking of a customer, a great, sales call. Make sure that that is documented somewhere, so that even if you're talking into a voice memo, that's probably the easiest way to start your article, or start that prompt. And then utilize, whether it's Trent or Rev or Fiverr, to transcribe that and edit it, get your articles, your information out there. So those are kind of the first steps that I would recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I use the transcription tool from Rev that's right on my phone, and you just bring it up and press it, and you speak into the mic, just as if you were having a conversation with yourself. Which probably many years ago people would have said, "Hey, that dude's crazy. Look at him, he's talking to himself." But nowadays they don't know if you're really speaking on a call or not. But at the end of it, once I'm done, Rev transcribes it, sends it back to me. It's editing here and there, and all of a sudden I have a blog article, which is much easier, for example, than if I was sitting here and typing it up from scratch, right? So
absolutely. And even if you were utilizing that as an outline, you have it as an article, utilizing it as an outline, and then you did a live like this where you're recording, you may pull in the conversation that you're recording examples from client experiences, things that work, things that you had to overcome. It makes the brand and you more human, because right now it's not the logo that people are purchasing, as you mentioned before. It is the relationship. And so looking at other ways to connect is going to be crucial.
Interesting. And I can sort of hear in my ears here my audience, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is great information, but this is that and the other." And I'm trying to tell, where do I start? Now, Dawn, is this the type of stuff, all this that you're talking about here, where a company can come to you and say, Dawn, help me with this?
Yeah, so absolutely. That's the short answer. When, depending on how they want to work, sometimes we have clients that have the time to do it themselves. They just need a little bit of guidance. That's sort of a coaching relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I have courses that take them through that as well. Sometimes they need a little bit of hand-holding. They've got it. They just need to shore up different aspects, maybe gaps of engagement somewhere. And we engage in a longer 90-day program. And then there's others that, they're like, I don't have the time. I don't have the manpower. I'm focused on sales. What do we need to do? And so we look at a longer engagement with strategy and campaigns, and making sure that their branding is on point and the messaging is on point, and their story, their brand story, is going to reach and pull at the audience they need to serve.
Awesome. Awesome. So is this the type of stuff, and that's great. Thank you for that, for breaking that down for me. I want to go back on your, the work that you did as a chief marketing officer and chief experience officer for organizations. Can you speak a little bit about that in terms of what that looks like and what benefits that brings to a business who may be, who may not necessarily be thinking of this, but after hearing, you today or seeing you, they may say, hey, you know what, this is what we need. So
one of the things that some companies do when they're in the growth stage is they don't have a kind of a role necessarily for a full-time marketing person, but they have a lot of need to get and shore up the brand and get it out there and get it known. So part of the done with you kind of portion is where it's boots on the ground. It's when we say at the hip, I'm literally at the hip in the boardroom with the in the meetings and with the strategy as another team member, working with the team. And sometimes it's day to day, sometimes it's week to week, but providing the same thing that an employee would, but in a way that we can get more done because I'm bringing team and you see me.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So in terms of, passing on knowledge, or some people that who may out there may say, you know what, where do I start otherwise? What are some books you read? What are some online, resources that, may have influenced you along the way that you feel could be good nuggets for people out there?
Well, there's, there's personal books that have influenced me and people that have influenced me along the way. And there's industry specific things I think will help a business. So for a small business owner or a marketing person or someone who's working kind of as that role, they might be an executive assistant or they might be in something else, but they're asked and tasked to do with marketing. Companies like Hootsuite and HubSpot have certification programs that will give them the overview. And it's very helpful. And I believe some of them are free and some of them, if you want the piece of paper, it's nominal for the price, but at least it's something that they can carry with them from place to place and it gives them more value as a client. For those smaller organizations, then to do an audit of where you are right now, I would look at places like Knowem, KNOWEM, or Namecheck, NAMECHK, to see your brand, where your brand is on other digital platforms. And that is a way that you can claim your business, as even if you're not filling the information out right now, but you can do that in phases. I think anytime that you look at, I'm going to kind of go against the grain of some of the notable social media people who say you need to, create 500 pieces of content and get it all out there. And, look, the fact of the matter is quality is going to trump quantity any day of the week. And when you get down to the source, the core of a business, and really why you do what you do, whether it's Simon Sinek, right? Why you do what you do, then we get at the passion of the entrepreneur and the business owner. We understand that they're going to still be doing this, whether they get paid for it or not. They would still be doing this because they understand and they love what they do. And taking that information and being able to share that the only way they can, in their own words, their own voice, their own tone, is what is going to be the difference between a good company and a great company. So whether it's thought leadership pieces, positional, educational, informational pieces, whether it's taking the little juicy bits of nuggets like sticks to you like peanut butter on the brain, right?
Yeah.
Like quotables, that are pulled out from that information, you can have a really good article and really good content, and you can create 20 or 30 pieces of information that can be then put up on social media management tools like Hootsuite or Buffer or Post Planner, Edgar, all of these things. So it's going to take some time, right? You have to dedicate, at least to get started, about 5 or 10 hours of your time to really get in and get under the hood. But more so, it is your brand personality, your brand story. It's the essence of that business that is keeping people. And I want to say this the right way, and I don't know that I will. So we're gonna try this together.
Wing it.
When you are in tough times, when you are standing in the face of no agreement, the only thing that you have is your belief in your product or service, and that you can do it the best, better than anybody else. And that is what you want to share online.
Awesome. And it's you said something there earlier, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize, is that, organic content or content that you produce on your own, that you come up with, is far, weighs far greater than reposting necessarily other articles, etc.
Yeah, your own voice is why they learn about you, they learn about your company, your organization, they learn what you stand for, your philosophy, the tenets, the work ethic of the business, and that makes them knowledgeable about the brand and brand ambassadors. So whether they purchase from you or not, they're more knowledgeable and they can share about you. Now, does that mean you can't share or repost or?
Not necessarily, yeah.
No, not at all. You have that curated content, whether it's industry news or other articles that you have an opinion on, and that opinion's important, right? So that's all part of that content mix that you want to provide on social media.
Interesting. So you mentioned just now about facing adversity. So, I happen to look over here on some of your fun facts that you shared with me. So tell us a little bit about swimming between the continental divide.
I am a Florida native. I do not like the cold, or so I thought. Anything below 80, I probably have a sweater or something on, or I'm kind of chilly. And I decided to take my daughter to Iceland on one of the last, before she went off and went to college and everything else. And so a year ago, this month. I forget because everything runs together. We actually spent some time in Iceland, and I thought it would be super cool to swim through the tectonic plates. Now, it's freezing anyway. Like you're just all bundled up anyway, but we had to, this is embarrassing. In Iceland, there's no locker rooms, you just kind of undress. It's very European. But we had a mixed group of tourists from all over the world, and we're in a national park, and there is no restroom. There's no restroom, no bathroom. We all have to put on these thin set suits, and then we overlay with our actual scuba gear, but everything has to be covered because we would freeze.
Uh-huh.
So if you've ever been on a commercial bus, a guide tour bus, you know that the aisle is probably less than 3 feet across, plus, the seats that are, so we had 33 people having to figure out how to change on the bus with everybody. So we, it's like everybody's doing it, so everybody's gonna be in their underwear. It really doesn't matter. Butts are butts are butts. So yeah. it was an exciting and interesting time, and we had a great time. I mean, you just kind of make light of what's going on, but it's actually because everybody's in the same boat. Nobody's embarrassed. There's a time. I imagine it's the same way on a nudist beach. Everybody's there with their clothes off. You kind of get used to it, and there you go.
Yeah.
So, but we waited. We were outside about 45 minutes for the other teams because small teams to swim in order to preserve and protect the environment. And so we were standing outside for 45 minutes in this freezing cold air before we got in, and even it's glacier water. So the water's running down from the glacier and it is into the fissure, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
It was Iceland is a beautiful, harsh place at times, hardy people and beautiful people. And it was an amazing experience. I am going back for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you are probably one of few who can say that they did this, and you know, I will have to put that on my bucket list because I'm certainly have not reached over to Iceland or even you know, in that you know, continental divide yet, but it'll definitely be on my bucket list. So, you know, um, and then tell me a little bit about the volcano and, you know, hiking through a rainforest and the volcano.
So when I go on vacation, I'm not one to just sit on a beach and read a book. I want to do things. And the other part of that is, in order for my brain to turn off, I have to challenge my body. And so when my body is deathly tired, that's all I can focus on. And it hurts sometimes, and it's very blissful generally. But when we were in Costa Rica and decided to hike a rainforest. Could have gone through waterfalls and made it very easily, but apparently I like challenges. So Costa Rica is in the Ring of Fire. They have a number of active volcanoes. It is a beautiful country. I love the way that they are with nature. Their relationship to nature is so different, just like Iceland with a relationship to water and nature is so different. And I adore that. And we had traveled about 3 hours. We parked in this little driveway of this little house, and the property owner gave us the restroom to use because we were going to be hiking 3 hours. We walked in the back of the house and down a rocky hill, and I come to this clearing and I see the Crater Lake, and it's part of his backyard.
Wow.
And a lot of the private owners, the park is adjacent. So getting into the rainforest part was probably about a half mile from his house, this young, I should say couple's house. And it had been a lot really muddy, but the slope was about 30 degrees. So we were told to try and keep our hands to ourselves because snakes and other poisonous things. But if you did not rely on branches or trees to some point, you slid, and I fell on my butt a number of times. So I had bruises. I came out with bruises a little bit on my arms and shin. So those were my souvenirs I took home. But one of the things after going through and around this crater lake and the end result, it was a horrendous hike. I was not prepared, honestly. But I will tell you, the view and the vegetation and the lushness and the greenery was awe-inspiring. And it was a park that was open for everybody.
Costa Rica is a beautiful place. I mean, that's another one on my bucket list. You seem to be knocking them off here today. So I feel as if you're making my bucket list for me, but awesome. So let me ask you something here. If others wanted to, provide marketing for clients, where would you suggest they begin?
I think, well, one of the things that is going to help them is to kind of get a sense of the services they provide. A lot of marketers, a lot of marketing people have a specialty. It might be search engine or SEO, SEM, might be social media, might be digital ads. So much of that right now is very specific, and there's even crossover. So people who used to do websites may do SEO or things like that. They need to have a sense of the services, and I would recommend an idea of the strategic partners that they can partner with to whole out or complete the service package for them. It's going to be easier if they have the kind of defined network. So for instance, marketers that are focused on attorneys or dentists or insurance agencies, they have a set system or process. And so that system or process for those clients is going to be easier, and it's also going to be easier for them to scale. Having a platform, whether it's, Salesforce or HubSpot or something else, having a platform that can provide support for the client as well will help them not spend so many hours on the admin side and focus on the client fulfillment side.
Awesome. Interesting. And you said something there that actually it made me reflect back on something that a lot of business owners today don't realize. A lot of people are still of the idea, I should say, or the mindset that simply, registering your domain and having a website, that you're in the realm of digital marketing. And actually that's a very, very small subset in today's day and age of, this entire digital marketing realm, right?
It is. It's maybe a sliver of a fingernail right now. I will say though, one of the things that I have found through the years working with clients is it is very important to know what you're purchasing, and to know that what you're purchasing, if there's somebody that's doing a website for you or buying a domain for you, that you have ownership and access.
Thank you. Yes.
It is. I have seen horror stories
Yep.
of clients spending thousands of dollars on something that they no longer can have access to, and their whole online aspect of business is gone.
Yeah.
So having a sense of what you're getting for the capital and the time that you're spending is going to be important. So that you're not spending $10,000 and you don't know what you got for it, right? Or you have a budget. Budgets are really important, and marketing budgets are particularly important. So, that should provide you a sense of not only the value that it brings, hopefully what you're spending, you're getting 2, 3, 4, 10x value for the money that you're spending. And if it is a per hour rate that you're spending on, you should have it's sort of like any contractor employee, you should have a kind of a list of deliverables.
Yeah. No, and you hit on all very, very good points. And I can tell you, we ourselves have had, one of the things that we do, and when we do a security audit for an organization, is we'll look at their internet domain, and we look at many different things: domain ownership, who has that, is it secured, how are the records set up. We're looking for email deliverability issues, which a lot of people don't understand, that that is major. I mean, you can spend all the money you want in marketing and you're doing all this online outreach, but if things are not set up properly, you're wasting money. And a lot of times we end up with scenarios where, when we're going down our audit and we start asking for, okay, well, do you have the administrator credentials for the domain that you registered? Oh, no, that's with this and this person. Well, is that person still in your employ? No, they're not my employee anymore. So how do you gain access to that? And it's like yourself, you said you've seen a number, we've seen our fair share. And trust me, those are some, claiming ownership of a domain when you cannot prove that you are indeed the owner is an uphill battle.
It is so poor ethically. And for me, in what I do, it really tells me the ethics of the company that they've worked with.
Yeah.
And it's just, in Navy terms, it's unsat.
Yeah.
It's just, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And then the other part, if I can throw in a nugget there, is, look, if you're going to go into social media with your company, remember, this is your voice. This is your formal voice that you're actually putting out there. You want to secure those accounts, folks, because if you don't put the proper security to securing your social media accounts and somebody gets hold of them and they start speaking on your behalf with language that is not reflective of your company, you may find yourselves in a lot of problems, number one. Number two, it may be difficult for you to regain control of those social media accounts. And I've helped some customers with that process. It's very, very ugly. And number three, the damage to reputation that's done happens like this. And you imagine yourself, you've spent 10 years building a company, and because you did not spend the time to really secure and put all the security in place on those social media accounts, somebody came in, grabbed them, and within a matter of seconds, they've destroyed 10 years worth of goodwill.
That is such a really good point. Such a really good point. Relying on a contractor or even an employee, a trusted employee, you never know what happens. Having access to that is a key. The other thing, there should always be a social media brand guide, just like there should be a
Yeah.
general brand guide. There should always be some kind of social media response or crisis communication plan anyway, in
Yes,
the
that's
way that
true.
you respond and training your employees in the way that they're expected to respond. You can't legislate what they do, what they say online, but when it comes to you speaking as you, there's very specific ways. So when I see a brand that has responding to comments or posting with incorrect grammar or just letters R and U, as part of it, it drives me a little nuts because it's not, I can tell that's not the voice. I can tell if they understood what was happening on their behalf, then they wouldn't stand for it. But it's not, in this case, it's not something, or I should say it's something that they need to really have a handle on.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on that. You're absolutely right. So Dawn, let me ask you here. Your journey is, I mean, from meeting the Pope to, through your entire experiences of, the glaciers and the volcanoes and what you're doing today with social media and how you've been able to actually, move your company into being one of the premier social media coaching and technology training companies in Central Florida. I mean, no easy feat. And congratulations. And on top of that, you also served in the military. So, sincerely thank you for your service. If you could change one thing on your journey, thinking back now, what is it? Why would you change it?
Oh gosh, I probably am still this way. I was stubborn. Came by that honestly, but it's all me.
My
And
wife would probably say that I'm right there with you, but
I I did, so as entrepreneurs, we want to go it ourselves. We want to give it the yeoman's try, and we want to fail forward, fail fast. And I think early on, had I had the vision of what a business could look like, and the knowledge of building a business, um, and accepted help in the way that advice or coaching, if I would have grabbed a business coach 15 years ago,
yeah,
I know where I'd be now.
yeah,
And knowing that sometimes that investment early on reaps, those 5 or 10x rewards later. And I'm seeing that. I mean, I think for me, I have a coach. I think every business owner who wants to
yeah. Same
scale
here.
has a coach.
Yeah.
And because they take the blinders off and they're able to have a flat conversation with you on kind of what's working, what's not working. If you hear background, it's because I have lawn people apparently who like to, sorry
they
about that.
they must have left here my place just now and went over to yours.
But really, I think that's the biggest thing. And then the other part is, as a business owner, I was so in love with the technology, right? I'm so in love with the new and shiny. And I see business owners go to new and shiny versus focused strategy.
Yeah.
And, I'm a generalist. I know a lot about that area, but if you ask me to do everything SEO or everything digital ads, I don't have a clue to be able to tell you effectively, but I know who does.
Yeah.
I know the experts in field. So, I'm very much an overview, big picture strategy, and finding what's missing if put in place would make the difference.
Well, I think look, my belief is, and I think a lot of people share this, right? Smart business people will always know and surround themselves with people who are A, smarter than they are, and B, who will, who will realize that, what, they don't need to know it all, but they need to know the people to call on that are reliable, who can get it done for them when they need them. right?
Exactly. And, and I always tell my clients, if I do my job, you'll fire me. Because I mean, in some respects, our relationship will be complete. You'll be on your way. And like rocket ship, my job is to add jet fuel to whatever you're doing so that you can do that. And I say fire in a, kind of pedantic way, but it's true. I really love when I see the growth that clients have. It does my heart good. It's like my babies are growing up. It's kind of sad, but in some respects, but it's like my babies are growing up. So I'm really
I am the same way. So I fully understand where you're coming from, and it's rewarding actually when you see that. Did you know that you might have played a very small part of that, but you see where they're going, and their success is the road's out there ahead of them. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. So let me ask you this here. This is a question that I actually throw out to all my guests, and it's one that sometimes gets people caught up. But if you could assemble a dream board of advisors of influential people, dead or alive, who would they be? Why would you choose them, and how would they help influence your journey?
The first person that comes to mind is my grandmother. In the 1950s, when she was a business owner, she was playing in an all boys club.
Oh, yeah.
And she did not have the luxury of networking with other females.
That was much different times back then.
And she also, during the Depression and during World War II, there's a grit. And then later on in life, when she kind of came into her own as successful, there's so many things now as an older business owner that I would love to just kind of learn at the seat, and I miss her terribly. I miss both of them. I also think Ben Franklin, I really, in my reading of him and the way that he's the inventor side of him, the way his thought process, maybe not the philandering, but the thought process is really, it's interesting to me. I'm inspired by people like Brene Brown when she changed the direction of how I relate to clients and how I do business. Her 2010 TED Talk at, I think it was University of Texas, that was pivotal to me. I actually had everybody, I had my daughter watch it. I had everybody I could just watch that. And then now she's blown up. Jane Goodall. I have adored her. I met her when I was at UCF. I have adored her for forever, and her way of making the relationships that she has and understanding of the animal world and the way that we are and the way that we are with each other. There's a lot of lessons there, and I think there's a lot of lessons left to learn. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and this is not these aren't business people, but Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote a book on death and dying. And I think it's, whether you're in the stages of business where you're having to deal with death, or it might be a death of career, it might be a death of a loved one, it might be a pivot. So there's some tiny death in the way that in this day and age, in my age now, with so many life changes that are happening externally and internally, there are small deaths that happen of things that have to fall away in order for you to recreate yourself. And I think a lot of that self-reflection that business owners and operators are doing now, there's some knowledge and wisdom from her book that can apply, and then generally in life as well.
Yeah. Wow. That's a pretty impressive board. That's really that truly is a pretty impressive board. I could say that from your grandmother to Ben Franklin to the others. I may have a hard time trying to put a board against yours there. But I can understand why you are one of Central Florida's most successful social media coaches and trainers, and just keep doing what you're doing, Dawn. It really was a pleasure having you on here with us today, and really thank you for sharing your journey and providing, knowledge and inspiration to others out there. Truly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. So I do have one final question for you, though.
Sure.
And if a member of our audience wanted to get to know more about you, or get in touch with you, or reach out to you and connect with you, how would they go about that?
So they can find all the information they need via virtualoptions.net. They can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Dawn Jensen on LinkedIn, and there is a Shorby. So Shorby is kind of a cool tool. I'm going to spell it for you because I think all business owners could use this in their profile. But shor.by. It's like a link tree, but it's Shorby. shor.by/Dawn. And that'll give you an opportunity to set a time with me if you want to do a breakthrough session, or you want to learn more about the course or my training.
Awesome. So I'm going to make sure that we put all of Dawn's contact information down below. Thank you very much, Dawn, for sharing all that you shared today. And I look forward to having you back with us in a few months, because we want to learn more. We want to hear more. And I know for me sitting here, I've taken down some notes and some things that I need to polish up on, and we'll be in touch with each other. But thank you. And keep doing what you're doing, and keep being you.
Thank you, Roy. You take care.
Thank you. Folks, thank you. This was another edition of the Dynamic Business Leaders Podcast. So happy to have you here with us today. Hope you learned a lot from Dawn. Make sure that you reach out to her. We're putting her information down below. And if anything, take her up on on reaching out to her and letting her take a look at your strategy and audit some of what you have out there, because we only know what we know. And in today's day and age, everything is interconnected. And unless we're sort of attacking all the different channels that are out there, you may be leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. Thank you. My name is Roy. It's a pleasure to be your host. Keep crushing it, and we'll catch up on the next one. Hi, I'm Roy Richardson, host of the Dynamic Business Leaders Podcast. Are you a business owner or leader of a successful business? If yes, we'd love to have you as a guest on our podcast. Our goal is simple. We provide a platform for leaders to share their experiences to benefit others. We want to hear your story, how you got started, the challenges you faced along the way, and your passion today. If this sounds like you, or if you know someone who fits the criteria, then be sure to visit our website at dynbizpodcast.aurora-infotech.com. That's dynbizpodcast.aurora-infotech.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell to be notified when our next podcast video is live. Or, if you'd rather listen to us during your car ride, you can also follow us on your favorite audio channel using the corresponding links below. Thanks, and once again, keep crushing it.